Hello, everybody. Thank you for
Hello.
joining us on this lovely day. Now, we have a interesting and great topic for you all today, so make sure you are listening with both of your ears while we discuss, is it a sickle cell patient's fault for the neglect that they receive? But before we get into this topic, let us introduce ourselves. I'm Shay Breon Howard. I am the co-founder and co-host of the Sickle Cell Experience Live. I am a writer, filmmaker, photographer, mother, and I'm also the daughter of a sickle cell patient. Complications of sickle cell when I was, and yeah, that's who I am. So.
Hello. I am Marissa Kors. I am co-founder and co-host of the Sickle Cell Experience Live. I'm a fifth generation sickle cell patient, patient advocate, author, and I'm really excited about this new little setup we have right here. It's just like I'm happy right now. So welcome, and this is very cool because not only can you type in your comments, but like I think we can actually bring you on and you can vocalize in real time and yay. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dorian Archie. I am a sickle cell patient and advocate, motivational speaker, and the male voice here at the Sickle Cell Experience Live. And yeah, I think that about covers me.
All right. I'm sharing
Happy to be here.
to the groups and everything. So if you guys want to just start this conversation, that would be great.
Absolutely. I'm sharing now.
Okay, well, while they share, I'll start talking. Today's topic: are we as sickle cell patients responsible for the neglectful care, or dare I say, abusive care situations that we find ourselves in? That's the question, and it really is just that simple. Are we responsible for the bad health care that we receive? Are we responsible, or do we play any part, and if so, how big of a part in the stigmas, the stereotypes that we are confronted with damn near every time we go to the ER? What is our role? And the reason that we're asking this question is because, as you all know, we have recently launched hashtag Stop Sickle Cell Abuse, and we have gotten a lot of feedback about that, good, bad, and otherwise. And a lot of it, though, that has come back to us has asked the question, but what are you doing about it? So, if you're asking us the question, what are we as patients willing to do to stop it? I'm asking the question, have we done something to start it? Yes, and to push it forward, because I can say that in my almost 44 years on this planet, whereas technology is getting bigger and better and doing all these amazing things, the personal care that I receive, the attitudes that I face when I go in for care seem to be getting worse and worse. And I, as a patient, I can honestly say The one thing that I've had to do my entire life, if I haven't had to grow in any other section in my life, I've had to grow constantly as a patient. I've constantly had to adapt to new people, to new medications, to new laws, to new protocols, to new, the opioid crisis. Oh no, now, nope. It's not a drug now. Now it's actually a medication again. Like, I've had to adapt to all of this. So I have to ask the question, is there something that I as a patient miss? What do y'all think?
My question to that would be, what, if anything, as a patient, then are we responsible to miss? Because I don't think that this kind of expectation or onus is put on any other illness or disease. I've heard sickle cell patients be called entitled, and I would say yes, we're entitled to the same level of care that every other group, patient, illness receives. And I don't think asking for the basic bare minimum of care is being entitled or expecting, the red carpet to be rolled out for us. So I would be, what could you have been expected to see, while dealing with a sickle cell crisis, while having to live your life, and then also shoulder the pain, the drugs, the hospitals, all of those things. What could you have been expected to see that could have made, your journey, with dealing with the illness, I guess, better?
Okay, let's go from the beginning. So in America, healthcare is a consumer product, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have socialized healthcare. So we, as the consumer, as the patient, it is our responsibility to find the quote unquote best deal. Mm-hmm. So to find the insurance package that's going to give us the most access to all the tests we may or may not need, that's going to cover all of the medications up to either 100% or at the bare minimum 80%, right? That's like the good window, 80 to 100% medications we may or may not need. That's going to allow us to see a doctor that we want to see, not be forced to see. What else do we have to take in? Oh, we're not going to have like massive premiums and deductibles. And be able to cover everybody in the family equally. And if you can get dental and eye, you're doing the damn thing. Those are all the things that you are expected to look for in your insurance, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So that automatically is the patient's fault.
If they don't select good insurance.
If you don't select the good insurance, automatically you're at fault. So how the system is set up from that standpoint puts fault on the patient.
It does. You're right.
That's number one. Okay. So now you get the good insurance, because my mama had all the good insurance. She had the number one good insurance, the number two good insurance, and then I had the state insurance. Okay. I was a covered somebody. And we did that show where it was like, heck, she just fought for my Medicare. We could have had several McDonald's franchises by now, the amount of money that she spent on my health care before the age of 15.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you get the good insurance, and now you find the doctor. So now it's your job to find a doctor that you vibe with. It's your job to find a doctor that understands your illness and is giving you the best care possible. This is where I have a problem.
Not every person in every state and every location has access to, quote unquote, those good doctors with good credentials from good schools. You
jumped a whole 3 steps. I have a problem with the fact that you went to school for 12 to 16 years. Mm-hmm. How am I supposed to know what it is you should be knowing? Like, let's not even go to, did you go to the good school? Did you excel in your classes? Are you chief of the hospital? Just the basic bottom, I'm a patient, you are a doctor. What makes you a doctor?
My education, my degree,
What else?
my residency,
Nope. What else?
knowledge.
You have a license.
Oh, your license to practice. Yeah.
That is the most important and the number one thing that makes one a doctor after their knowledge. It is their license, their right to practice. And that right to practice is backed by the
Oh, you
United
guys
States.
are frozen.
Are we keep frozen? So, okay. So if that's the case, are we still frozen?
Can't hear you.
We were
What
going. We were
happened just now?
getting there.
How about now? Still nothing?
No?
No, I can't hear you. Did you accidentally hit mute or something, or?
No. Yeah,
This
no.
is so
What about people out there?
Can you guys hear us?
Yeah, can you guys hear us? Maybe just shake.
Oh, you can hear them fine.
Okay.
I mean, I can't hear them, but if the
Okay.
audience can hear them,
Well, as long as they can hear
then
us.
let me know, please.
So then I just go back to her, the what? The producer?
Okay. Well, no, I'm sure it'll kick back in. I'm sure
Oh,
it'll kick back in. I'm sure it's just a momentary glitch.
Can you hear us?
on your end.
Can you hear us?
okay.
All right. Well, just
Okay.
keeping with the
Everyone
moment.
say they can hear us all.
Huh? I'm sorry. What?
And thank you all for watching. Appreciate it.
You gonna stop us?
Maybe you guys should just come right back. Like sign out, come right back.
Hmm?
Okay.
Stay here for a second.
I don't know how.
I don't know what happened, and I know they said they can hear you, but I can't, and it's gonna make for a weird conversation if I can't hear anything. All right, guys, they will be right back in a second. Thank you all for watching. This is our first time streaming with Restream, and we're trying to get the hang of this thing, and it's been an experience. So I want to hear from you all, though. I know we all want to hear from you all. What do you think? What do you think about, is the neglect we face somehow our fault? Is that something that you feel in your heart of hearts is absolutely crazy and never? Or maybe you feel like, okay, maybe we're partly to blame, or maybe it is just, it's your fault. I can't say that with a straight face, but okay. Why is it taking them so long to come back? Don't know what happened, guys. I'm sorry. I really want to know, though. I think that as something that we were born with, we have to deal with, can't possibly be all we can do is adjust and try our best. So personally, I don't feel like it's our fault. I feel like the neglect or mistreatment that we face, depending on the circumstance, have been avoided sometimes. But I definitely think that things are always seen one way over the other. And that's the problem. Because the person with the degree has the degree, so they're automatically right, when 9 times out of 10 doesn't always work that way. Okay, they're right. But I definitely okay, say something. Things are always seen.
Okay. Can you hear us?
I know something.
Okay, is it better?
This is so weird.
Can you hear us?
Did you join with your microphone too? Or is there some kind of feature like that? But it was working before, so I'm not sure why it just stopped. Probably gonna be.
Also, we can see the chat. I'm sorry. I don't know why it's not. I can't hear you. That's so weird.
Wow.
Okay.
Let's see. If,
Can you hear us on another device? Like if you watch on Nyla's
It's
device?
like now the green bar is showing up as if your volume is fine. But for some reason, I can't hear you.
can you?
Right. So I'm saying if you go on Nyla's device.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's something. I don't know what happened. Honestly.
Right. So you're listening to us through a third-party device.
So you should probably text me whatever you're trying to say because I don't know what you're saying right now. But I will say this. This is so weird.
Okay. So
I'll try to.
We are live. Hey, hold on. Stop.
Let's see if that works.
Hold on. Don't do that. Don't do.
What?
We're still live, right?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Use Nyla's device for volume.
Okay, we'll see. The camera sucks, so we'll see.
No. Keep the camera.
No, oh, to listen to hear you?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, we'll see the camera. Oh, okay. That works. Did you guys hear the feedback? If so, I'll mute my. I'll mute it here.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Hello?
You guys hear the feedback? If so, I'll mute.
Can you pipe that maybe into like a headset?
Headset.
That way there's no feedback.
So do you guys hear that? I'm asking.
Yeah, but
we
if you
can
put
hear
a
you.
headset on, then we're good.
That way there's no feedback.
Nyla.
We're so sorry. Thank you for bearing with us through the technical difficulties. This is our first time using this specific app.
But it will get better.
It will always get better because, you know, we have no choice.
Yeah.
We got to get better or die. You know, we ain't going nowhere. I had a dream about that. I had a dream that, like, we just stopped. Like, we just woke up one day and stopped talking. And it was like not a happy thing. And I woke up like in a panic, like, ooh, oh my God, something bad. Okay, we have to fix that.
Like this is the Eddie Murphy movie, 1,000 Words.
Okay.
I've never seen them. But if he runs out of things to say, then yes.
Yes, exactly.
Oh yeah, that's a problem.
1,000 words. It's supposed to act. Well,
Pressing ass idea.
So, I guess while she's doing this, we can continue our conversation.
Okay, right. Wait. Are you good?
We're good.
You can hear her? Great minds. Okay.
Awesome. Yes. Teamwork.
Make the dream work. And thank you, audience, for bearing with us. Yes. Here we go. So, back to what we were saying.
Doctors, we're doctors.
Right. So what makes one a doctor? What makes you a doctor is that you have a license, and that license is backed by the United States government, state and federal. You got DEA number. You have a FDA number.
And you have to get licensed to practice in each state that you want to practice in.
All of these things. Okay. So why is it then my fault as the patient, as the consumer, for having the quote unquote bad doctor? I don't know what that doctor is supposed to know. Now, I'm not speaking to sickle cell patient. I'm just speaking in general terms. So as a perfectly healthy person that went and got some insurance because they said I had to, and I need my kids to get, all their shots so I can send them back to school and I can go to work, and I don't plan on ever being in a hospital unless I have some kids or I have a car accident. Regular Joe Blow off the street. Now, if you have a good doctor that runs proper tests, that is, cautious and
An active participant in your health, your
active
actual health care,
participant, then what?
Just throw drugs at it.
Well, what happens? They might find that cancer a little bit sooner. They might discover your child has asthma and it's not just, allergies. They might do all of these wonderful life extending and health prevention type situations, right? And for that, they're praised as they should be and make good money as they should, because that's what they're trying to give half their lives to do.
But most doctors don't treat with preventative care. They wait till the problem happens and then they treat it.
So now, let's talk about a sickle cell patient. How are we different from the average person walking down the street?
We're born with our illnesses.
1, 2,
you can't see our illnesses.
3, our illness is generational.
Yeah.
It's hereditary.
That's it. Not covered that.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, because you could be born. Okay, but number 4 is that we have an illness that our so-called experts have not taken time to learn about in full detail, the way that they have been taught about the human body, the way that they have been taught about, your circulatory systems and your lungs.
And the younger doctors now being educated are complaining about having to hear about it so much. So that part.
So, okay. So now as a patient, not only do I have to be the consumer, but I also, if I want to just feel safe, just in my own skin, in my own body, while that body is just being hella difficult, I have to now go be responsible for educating the doctor that I had to seek out, who works through the insurance system that I had to seek out, that I'm paying for on the premiums that I had to negotiate.
But then you run into with all of that, you run into the huge catch-22 of that doctor's ego, who does not want to learn something from his patients. Time and time again, you run into doctor after doctor after doctor who will tell you that your Google search is not the equivalent of their degree, even if in the entirety of their undergraduate, graduate, and residency, they only learned maybe, 8 pages worth of sickle cell in that entire 12-year.
I told that I should just leave. Why am I sticking with that doctor?
And then this is where you run into the problem of, depending on where you are in the country. If you're in Los Angeles, if you're in Houston, if you're in Atlanta, if you're in places, major metropolitan cities that have, world-renowned medical programs, you have access to an ample amount of doctors and hematologists who are knowledgeable, who have maybe even possibly dedicated their life specifically to the study of this. But if you're in, middle America, if you're in, Hobunk, Texas or something, your access to a doctor who is knowledgeable, who, can treat you effectively, and who isn't, who isn't, bound by his ego or his biases or all of the other racial implications that sometimes accompany sickle cell, then you're going to continually run into that brick wall.
Okay. No.
And that's why the expectation I don't think can never be placed onto the patient in terms of whether or not we're responsible for the neglect that they, place onto us.
Okay, so let's say you get past all that. You get past all of that you just said about the doctor that you've chosen.
That you maybe
that you're not
didn't
leaving.
choose.
No, we got the good insurance. Remember, we got the good insurance. So,
but even if you have good insurance in an area that doesn't have, where there are not an ample amount of doctors, say for instance in like Lake Charles, Louisiana, smaller Louisiana town, even though it has a very large Black population, you would be hard pressed to find more than a handful of hematologists. So yes, you may have the best insurance, but what is the access going to be to you to exercise the best of that insurance if you don't have access to good doctors in your area?
But now we have Zoom calls and
you mean because you can seek out a doctor online and those kinds of things.
Well, so with the onset of COVID, a couple good things came out of COVID, but one good thing that came out of COVID was that finally you could have two doctors get paid for caring for one patient, and they both can bill. That came from COVID because they had to recognize that telemedicine had to be a thing, or else people were not going to survive, period, die.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, the reason why you could not access your specialist in the ER or when you went traveling was because they were fighting over billing. Yes, people, billing.
Wow.
Ain't that some stuff?
Wow. So, and I travel a lot, and I ran into that. I cannot tell you how many times. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, my doctor told me to my face, he was like, do you know how much money I've lost over you because you were someplace? And I basically pulled the doctor aside. I was like, look, you bill, I need to get her home. So now we're taking care of that. Your doctor can bill for you, the regular random doctor can bill for you, and they should be able to work together to make you whole and send you back. But again,
well, now when did this start? Because I had 2 hospitalizations while I was in Houston.
I think you need to go talk to those people. This started somewhere around June.
Yeah, of 2020.
Yeah, different show, different. Back to why are we responsible? So now, if you got past all that, now you're upstairs. Now you're the patient. You have your medical records, and a doctor comes in, and you're on the phone speaking to your child, or your parent, or your husband, or whomever. And now that doctor decides that you were being rude, and you must not have really wanted to speak with them, and they walk out. Was that your fault for not anticipating that that doctor could have taken that action?
No, and again, I think that's why I don't think the onus or expectation can ever be placed onto the patient.
But it is.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's, and you could run down the 1,000,001 different scenarios that I'm sure all of the sickle cell patients around the globe have had to face in terms of dealing with doctor bias or access or any of the other, horrible things that we've experienced in terms of like just getting, good care across the board from the ER all the way through your admission. Your care should be consistent. And how do we begin to address the consistency of care, or the lack of consistency of care, that is creating most of the neglect that patients are experiencing, not just here in America, but around the globe? But let's focus on America for now. But how do we begin to address that? Because the expectation and the onus continues to be placed on the patient as to why we're experiencing this neglect, because we're difficult, because we're looked at as fake or not as, drug seekers or any of the other, red flag words that they use to label sickle cell patients.
Okay, so this is my thing.
Let's hear in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts on that as well. Sorry about that.
No. I mean, no, comments as always. You guys are welcome. And now you can call in and talk to us, and that's really great. And we really want you to call in and speak with us and tell us about your experiences where you feel that, you are blamed for the bad treatment that you received. Because really my question here is there a baseline something that we as a community can instruct our patients to do on individual levels that will reap them the benefit of better care and just better being received, better when going to seek care? Because I personally feel like one of the things that we don't do, and y'all about to get mad, so it's okay though. I'm dressed for it. Let's come on, we're about to get mad. But one of the things that we don't do is we don't really explain to people the difficulties that we go through. We don't really tell people about the pain, the frustration. We don't tell people how upsetting and emotionally and physically exhausting this thing is, because we're born this way. So number one, I don't think it occurs to us that this is something that we might have to put a little bit more explanation into, right? But number two, because we're born like this, we have grow up with it. And when you're growing up is a constant fight to fit in.
Yeah.
It's a constant fight to be accepted. And so the first time somebody says to you, God, you're always sick. God, he never has to run. Oh my God, why does he always go get the water? Unless you are lucky enough to get that group of friends that realizes your illness is their benefit. Because I had one of those friends, her name was Nicole. And she like peak game that I was the only child allowed to just get up and walk out the room to get water or go to the bathroom. And one day she raised her hand and she was like, how come Marissa doesn't have a bathroom buddy? The teacher was like, well, well, she's sick, right? Yeah, she's sick. Well, shouldn't she be the one with the bathroom buddy? I mean, shouldn't she have like a backup bathroom buddy? And she talked my teacher into a corner, and the teacher was like, okay, Nicole, you care so much about Marissa, you gonna be her bathroom buddy. And she was like, cool, Dad, you gotta go to the bathroom? No, yeah, you do. Come on, let's go. She taught me how to take the long way to the bathroom and the double long way back. She taught me how to put my water breaks like on a schedule so that we could get out of class right in between recess and lunch. She found my oldest as her asset, but not everybody has a Nicole. So you grow up and you just learn.
It sounds like Nicole taught you how to play chess.
Well, she did. I still my dog. I mean, she lived
and I feel
with
like
me.
that's what most of us as sickle cell patients are trained to do, play chess. And that's why we hold it so close to our chest. We push it down. We don't talk about it. We talk about those darker places,
But by not talking about it,
we're doing a disservice to ourselves.
The people that even live with us think it's not that bad. Because if you're not playing to that stereotypical I'm in pain, I mean, even when both basic thing of I'm in pain, a woman in labor, every time you turn on the TV, up until reality shows really started showing women in labor, swear to God, I thought labor was just like a room of screaming, yelling, and throwing pillows at husbands, because that's what I saw on every TV show. Was a woman, you did this to me, get the hell out.
Or like crushing his hand or
Yes,
something.
and now he don't know what to do.
Or passing out.
No idea that, first of all, labor is gross, poop happens.
Oh God.
Yeah. No idea
I don't have children.
that, like, you really do have sort of like 3 minutes to get this kid out, because if they just wriggle the wrong way, it's just something is stuck and now we suck. None of this. And the first time that I actually watched a live labor was the Kardashians. And old girl, literally, she sat up, and when she sat up, she did like this, and she grabbed the baby and put the baby on her own chest. And the doctor was like, "Oh, oh my God, no clue." So my point with all of that is that until we started seeing representation of actual birth, we had a sort of comedic kind of outraged kind of thought of what it is. When people think about people in pain, they're crying. They can't move. They need all the help in the world. They are like the most pitiful, saddest thing in the world. Oh my God, what do we do? And we are the exact opposite of that. So if we showed more emotion, do you think we would have better, more understanding, or we would be received better? Do you think that people would think twice before saying just flat out, "You're faking"?
Well, that works with your households, your friends, those everyday people, to help start dispelling those kinds of myths. How can we start dispelling those myths with doctors, who one should already know that this is a myth, and it's kind of starting to become more readily known, but doctors are still walking out of medical school, with this belief that Black women can somehow shoulder more pain. And that's why Black women, statistically die more in childbirth than their white counterparts, because of this misconception that Black women can somehow deal with more pain. It's those kinds of I guess, biases and sentiments that still persist not only in medical schools, but in hospitals and ERs. That So if you're in a full-blown pain crisis, like, and yeah, sometimes you are writhing in pain, wrenching and screaming and crying, and other times you may just be balled up in the fetal position on your phone playing Candy Crush to try and distract yourself as best as possible, or on the phone, with that friend who always makes you laugh, trying to distract yourself, in any way possible, trying to laugh or something even. How can we get around, that nurse who sees us, and from across the desk who carries bites, or the doctor, who they aren't watching us? It's like we're dealing with a pain crisis, and then we have to still always be on and thinking about, well, okay, I need to show them I'm in pain, or let me not be on my phone, or else they'll think I'm faking it, or, going to those extents to essentially try to pacify their sentiments or their biases. How do we get around that? Those kinds of things that are creating the neglect? Because, is it putting it more in the media spotlight so that there are more campaigns, actually showcasing what sickle cell patients are dealing with, outside of just a late night 2020 special or something, or that tiny little 15-minute clip that, they do on, this new research or that new research, where they still don't show what an actual crisis or multiple crises can look like from start to finish, and what that is like everywhere, across the board, from admission to, getting back home.
Mm-hmm.
And please, if you're watching, please comment and tell us what you think can possibly be done to try and get around those kinds of things. Because I don't think that simply just letting as many people as we know, into the fact that, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. This is, these are the emotions it can make me feel. A crisis doesn't always look like me being hunched over and writhing in pain. I do just, I learned a while ago that it was better for the community if I didn't hold those things so close to my chest. If I did take the opportunity to just educate everyday people whenever the opportunity arose.
So, okay, I understand all of that. But, so if we were more open about what we actually physically are going through, with the doctors, with the nurses, would that help them to understand the urgency of the matter? Because as we know, sickle cell really is a matter of timing, right? And I think that we have to take responsibility for getting ourselves to hospitals in a decent amount of time. And I can honestly say,
How many of us have been turned away, though, because we aren't at that threshold?
So, as I was about to say, I can honestly say when I was a child, right, in order to teach me how to effectively communicate to the adults around me, the ones that had the license and the cars and money to put gas in the car to get to the hospital, right, the ones that could legally put me in the hospital, I was taught timing. Everything was in threes. Everything was in threes. It didn't matter what it was in threes. Okay, you were in pain? Yep. When did it start? At noon. What time is it? It's 2:45. Okay, it's 3. Okay, we're giving you pain medication, and the minute we hit that second round, that third round, we're heading off to the ER.
I know for me, most of my crises come on full-blown 10 at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm being woken up out of my sleep in full-blown excruciating past 10 level. I'm screaming 14, 15, 20. It's like I wake up and that pain is already there gripping my body at that level. And then I try to deal with it. I might be trying to get my medicine, but I already know I'm past that threshold point at that point. And it's already on and popping. So
okay, but so still, even in that situation, you have to get yourself to the hospital. You have to have a plan to get yourself to the hospital.
Absolutely.
One that is as least stressful as possible.
Yes, absolutely.
How many people, and be honest out there, how many of you have a plan that when you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's not a, oh God, F-bomb, what am I about to do, storm.
And do you have a backup plan for your backup plan?
And that plan does not mean, I can get myself to the doctor. I've driven in a crisis before. I mean, seriously, you wake up, you're in pain, you can't move. Example, my plan, I wake up, I'm in pain, I can't move. I can't even get to my family's bedrooms. They're upstairs, I'm downstairs. They're in the front of the house, I'm in the back of the house. By the time I walk from my bedroom to the stairs, up the stairs, I gotta get upstairs. I gotta get past the dog. And then to them, I've like walked the length of my house 2, 3 times. That's not happening. What is the plan? I literally roll over and I hit 1 and I call Ron. We don't try to call Adrian. We definitely don't call Casey. They're not picking up the phone. I call Ron. Ron's like, what's up? We gotta go. Cool. Immediately, I hear feet. I hear the light come on. My mother comes downstairs. Do you need help getting dressed? Hopefully, I'm already dressed. Did you call the doctor? Yep, I called the doctor. My job is to call them, call the doctor, and do my best to get dressed. Their job is to wake themselves up and make sure that they can actually drive, period, and get me to the car, pack my stuff. And when I started going to the hospital more and more frequently, I saw that it was taking me 40 minutes to pack because things were not where they were supposed to be. So I started literally packing my dresser. My dresser was nothing but pajamas so that I could tell people just pack the dresser and come on, let's go. And then get to the hospital as quickly as possible. Like, how many people out there have a plan? And if you live alone, you have a plan where you can call someone and that somebody is like, I'm on my way. It's not a back and forth over, can I get gas money? It's not a back and forth over, oh man, you got to go now. It's not a back and forth over, oh, let me find somebody to watch my kids. But nope, I'm on my way now. Because all of these things are stressors.
And I live alone, and that's one thing that's especially out here in Los Angeles that I really had to learn to hurdle. And finding an emergency contact, having a backup to your emergency contact. If you're not married, if you don't have family, you know, if you're there for work or whatever, and you don't have those kind of built-in things.
You called me and I wasn't at home.
Mm-hmm.
So he called me. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't at home. Anybody that knows me knows I'm not waking up until well after 10. I didn't get his message until like 11. I'm thinking to myself, oh God, he should be at the hospital by now. I call him back. He's barely answering the phone and he's still at home. Oh, okay, let me call my parents. Boom, they on the way. What did we learn from that? Don't call Marissa. Call Ron.
I was actually about to say that while you were saying that.
Could have saved you 8 hours of being in excruciating pain.
Yeah, and it was literally, I couldn't even walk down my stairs. Even once Ron and Adrian got there, the ambulance still had to be called because I was having lung crises, and I couldn't move. The ambulance people had to literally pick me up off the couch.
Why didn't he call? Why did he wait so long? Well, how come you didn't call us? Why did you wait so long? You guys don't have better contact? What's wrong? You talk to each other every single day. And I'm on the phone like, you need to keep your ringer on. So now I'm in trouble because he doesn't feel good. And you know he was sitting there for 8 hours. We could have been here. Yes, Mom. Sorry, Mom. My bad. I got in trouble because he didn't call Ron.
Well, and this is why I say have a backup plan to your backup plan.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But how many of us do that? And then when you get to the doctor, you're irritated and you're annoyed and you're frustrated. But even worse, you're waiting for however many more hours for the ER to take you. Is that not a patient issue?
Mm-hmm. It is.
What happens when you get into the ER and the nurses and the doctors come? And, you know, and I'm not talking about that doctor that walks in and is just automatically like, I don't do pain medicine, bye. I'm not talking about that person. I'm talking about the doctor that comes in that is saying, you know, what can I do for you today? What happened? What started it? And, you know, and I've had patients that do this. So I'm not making this up. Don't make eye contact with the doctor. Don't really speak up. And that could be because when you talk, that vibration, just that pain is like too much. And you have to whisper and you have to slow down your talking because
it does hurt. That vibration does hurt.
Yeah, it hurts.
I've had to explain that to multiple people. Like, you know, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. And I'm like, you don't understand. Especially if you have a male voice, like that vibration, it can really actually hurt. Like to just speak in your regular tone of voice, it can literally hurt.
So the question is that when you don't make eye contact, when you don't explain to the doctor, okay, look, like I explained, I have vertigo. So if I'm doing this or if my head is down, I say to them, I'm not trying to be rude. I have vertigo. And right now, your direct sight line has me looking at the lights that are at the ceiling, and it's making me sick, and I want to throw up, and I'm trying not to throw up on your shoes. And they immediately step back and go, oh no, don't do that. Well, but now we on the same page. Oh, okay. You know, I put the phone down. Even if the person I'm talking to is still talking, putting the phone, okay, the phone's down. Because here's the thing, ERs are unpredictable places. And when you have that doctor's attention, you really don't know for how long you have it. And you don't know if the reason that you don't have it is going to be because the gunshot wound and stab wound and pregnant lady that's basically giving birth is all come in at the same time. Or if the doctor just has decided that you are not worthy of their attention because you're just being rude. So again, you know, how much of this do we as patients realistically have to take on? And I'm not saying it's our job to motivate the doctor. Let's understand that. No. If you have to be motivated to take care of somebody you don't take care of, just like you don't need to be motivated to be with somebody. Stop that. I'm talking about, though, doing the bare minimums of getting yourself where you need to be in a timely fashion, communicating to the people that are licensed to help you, and getting them on board with what you need. How much of that falls on the patient? And I come to the conclusion that about a good 80% of that falls upon you. And I think that the big issue that happens is that when you are a child, none of it technically falls on you, right? We're all taught how to speak like adults. We've all been talking like this since we were children. We are all praised for knowing everything that we know about ourselves and being able to say what's wrong and name of our medicine and how much and how often. And that's really great. But adults make the ultimate decision of whether or not they're going to put you in the car in that moment or if they're going to wait for the touchdown. Adults make the decision on whether or not they're going to take you at 5 o'clock in the morning or if they're going to wait for traffic to die down. Or sometimes they have to go to work and somebody else has to come get you. These are things that as a child you don't have control over. And then one day you're kicked out of that world and everything is on. And you've not necessarily been prepared for those details. And now you're the one that's suffering the consequences of that. And it's just something to think about. I'm in no way saying that, you know, because the doctor refused to give you morphine, it was your fault because, you know, whatever. That absolutely is not our fault. It's not our fault that, you know, hospitalists, for whatever reason, think it's okay to neglect a patient for the 2 days of their rotation because they just don't want to deal with the complications of your narcotic needs. I had somebody tell me that once. I just don't want to deal with your narcotic needs, you know, so I'm going to try to find somebody who does. Oh, okay. What? But, you know what was my fault in that situation? I didn't report that doctor. And I didn't report that doctor because I felt like he recognized that he was not the one to take care of me. And, you know, and that was okay. To me, that was progress, that he recognized he was not the one to take care of me. But I had not gotten to a point to where I not only understood but demanded that I be treated properly. And telling your patient, I don't want to deal with your narcotic needs. Not I don't have the knowledge to deal with it, but I just don't want to. That's not okay. You don't get to pick and choose your patients like that. If you don't know, That's a completely different subject, but that's not what he said to me. I just don't want to, it's just too complicated and paperwork and oh my God. And because I didn't report him, guess what? 3 years later, another sickle cell patient got him and got stuck with him. And it was not a good outcome. So again, what are our responsibilities as patients, as people, to do as much as we can to ensure that we're not only getting the best health care possible, but that we are sending a message throughout the industry that you need to treat this illness better.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Comments, questions, I have to know. Do that. Okay, Rion?
You want to read some of the comments?
Yes. Do we have comments?
Got a few.
Oh, let's read.
Yeah.
Okay. So I haven't really been saying much because I can't. So when I hear you guys,
Delayed.
it's lagging.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just I'll read this. There's really one comment,
Okay.
and then we can end this because there's no one else is commenting. If there's anyone else who feel like they want to have comments, questions, or concerns, do so now. We're getting ready to end this live. So Katie Martini says, I don't know for sure, but I think unfortunately, people that hold ignorant/wrong sentiments about sickle cell will have them, regardless of somebody in their life being more expressive. They could easily say that you're just being dramatic in your expression, which is wrong. Awareness and media could potentially be more effective doing things just like just like you guys are doing. Certainly not telling anybody how to act in their experience, just answering the question from earlier.
But yeah, I totally agree that considering that that's something that we often hear anyway.
Definitely respect that opinion. I'm a firm believer that creativity and media will change people's perspectives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I 120% agree. I think that if we had the same level of
That's why I haven't been talking. I can't.
I get it. Because now I'm sure you're hearing your own voice in your head now, 5 minutes later. But I had the similar thing happen the last time we did this with the Zoom thing where it was like delayed in my ear, but got through it. But in response to what you and Katie were both saying, I 100% agree that I think with more media exposure, if we had that same level of exposure that diabetes does and cancer, you can't turn your TV on for more than a few minutes, without seeing a commercial or infomercial or something for cancer or diabetes, which creates that kind of AIDS, HIV, and then even focus specifically to specific groups within those illnesses, childhood diabetes or type 1, whatever. We don't have anything like that, and honestly I don't know why, because we definitely have, if collectively we pulled resources, even just a few organizations pulling their resources could easily sponsor a 160-second TV spot just educating on a national stage for $2 or $3 million, and have that air during potentially primetime TV hours for several months. I think even just doing something like that would open up in people's minds, consciously, create, oh, I've heard about that. I know about that. Instead of it being just all of the maybe negative things that people have just been hearing for the last, 50 years about sickle cell disease, because of the gross lack of education that exists both in the medical field and socially, and primarily within the community that it affects most, which is I think the worst thing. We have an ill-informed population that is primarily being affected by this.
We have a comment. Did we read that my brother says that I'm being dramatic and I'm addicted, and he has the trait and he is healthy, and when I go to the hospital and I have to hear, oh, I can't give you morphine, we are running short on the pain med. So
wow.
First of all, Kimberly, I'm incredibly sorry that you have to deal with that kind of BS, because that's just right. That's number one.
And that you have to deal with that within your family. I think we've all probably dealt with a huge lack of misunderstanding from
our family.
Yeah. Like my mom, even, for instance, said to me, do you have to take your pain medicine every day? I don't remember, that ever being the case when you were a kid. You would just, you'd get sick and then you'd go back to being fine. And I'm like, well, when I was a kid, I didn't have the stressors of life, bills, all of those adult things that most adults just stress about and lose their hair over or go gray. That stuff is literally killing me from the inside out now, and as you progress from your adolescence into adult life, your body also changes. And because you have an illness that is slowly beating all of your internal organs to death, your bone, muscle tissue, all of those things, by the age of 12, I knew people who had hip replacements and knee replacements already, gallbladders removed, spleens removed, all kinds of stuff that most people don't see until they're, well into their late 60s and stuff, we're dealing with as adolescents. So even for my own mother, who saw me grow up with this, she didn't have the same level of understanding that, okay, as I'm growing, as I'm changing, my body is changing, and that the way that I have to use different medications, of course, has changed as well. Now, I'm not popping morphine like it's Skittles or anything like that, but yeah, I may have to take, a muscle relaxer or something like that every single day after I've gone through my entire day and I come home and my entire body is on fire, it feels like.
Yeah, but then the other thing that also happens that parents and family don't understand is that we start negotiating with our bodies
from
the time we're like 4. I mean, can you guys really recall the first time that you realized when you wake up in the middle of the night, that's inconvenient for your parents?
I was going to say, please explain what you mean by you start negotiating
with your body.
That is so true.
I mean, I was fairly young. I was 3 when my mother, but y'all know my mom's a little bit off. Well, my mother sat me down and said, when you say these words, Mommy, we have to go, this is the butterfly effect that you're setting off. That means that we get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Do we get up at 3 o'clock in the morning? No, we do not. What do we do at 3 o'clock in the morning? We're asleep. Okay. Is that a problem? Yes, that's already a problem. Then what happens? Well, you get on the phone. Yep, she's calling the doctor. She's calling the grandparents. At that moment, my parents were divorced. She's probably calling my dad. Yep, we got to go. I remember her saying that in the other room. Nope, she just woke up. No, I'm getting dressed right now. Yep, I'll call you when I get there.
And as a kid, hearing all of that, seeing all of that,
you hear all of this
subconsciously, that makes you, it does. And you start feeling like, oh, it's my fault that my parents have to do all this. It's my fault that my sister might miss school in the morning.
Exactly.
It's a lot of pressure on a child.
Mommy has to, call in and let them know she's not coming to work today, or she'll be at work late. Daddy has to find somebody to open the store for him, in case he has to cover here for me because I have to go to work. I didn't have siblings, but when I did get sick and I was at my cousin's house, my first you know, responsibility, it felt like, was to protect them, my cousins, because they were my age and they didn't have to deal with this. So it was always kind of like, okay, if I can just hold on and not, you know, cry too much so they can get to school and then I can let it out so they're not affected. Like you are constantly negotiating with yourself. If I can just let mommy sleep until the sun comes up. And if you are unfortunate enough to have parents, or if your parents are the greatest parents in the world and they just have a cranky night and they're like, can't you just wait till 7? Damn. That kind of just solidifies for you how much of an inconvenience all of this is. And parents have no idea that your child that's 5 years old or in the first grade or whatever, they're having these kinds of thoughts because they're the reason. Like they know long before you.
And they're not even going to want to have the conversation with you about it, that they're having those kinds of, because they're going to still feel like that's been more pressure or angst and all of those things. So also, if there are any parents out there, I strongly encourage you to do the opposite. Not saying that, you know, your mother was wrong to do that and the way that she did it, because I mean, there's a level of understanding that should be you should be given, so that you understand that, you know, you do need to be responsible for your own care, you know.
Well, it helped me to combat nurses. Because when nurses would say to me, did you just not want to go to school? I could look at them and say, do you know I had to put my name on that list out there? And you have a limited amount of resources. Did you know that? And they're like, what? You have a limited amount of resources. You are a resource and your time is limited. If I wasn't sick, then that would mean the person that put their name after me would have to wait longer. And I really wouldn't want that to happen. And then they shut up. But that was a heavy responsibility to have to comprehend at 3-4 years old that, okay, not only am I affecting the people in my house, but what I'm doing ultimately is affecting, you know, at least 10 people, you know.
Yeah, provided that they prioritize sickle cell at this particular care facility.
We go out. But no, I'm just talking about the person that got to cover for mom, the person that had to open for dad, the person that had to take my cousin to school, you know, all of that. And that's why I say, parents, get a family counselor. And every time your child goes into crisis and you guys have to deal with it as a family, make sure as a family you go see that counselor, because you have absolutely no idea the thoughts that are going through a child's mind. And this is not just sickle cell. I've taken care of various children who are autistic. I got one down, and he lets you know real quick, I'm trying very hard to stay this way. And he just means calm. I'm trying very hard, like y'all need to back up. I'm trying real hard to stay this way. So it's a kid thing, and you know, no, okay, and it's a difficult thing, and you know, Kim, I think your answer to your brother in that you really are just trying to do your best is true. We are all really just trying to do our best. But the fact of the matter is this. What are we not doing? Because all of this can't just be on medical system. And I feel like one thing that we are not doing as a community, we are not putting this stuff on paper and getting it to the people that can do something about it. Yes, putting your complaint on Facebook at 2 o'clock in the morning and trying to find out, am I the only one and can you give me some advice? It's a great thing. But if somebody gives you that advice and says, yo, you need to take this,
I think many of us
copy and paste.
I think many of us are afraid of retribution. and being labeled as difficult or somehow feeling like they'll
So
put
you want to
something
be
in our
labeled, or you
charts.
want to be dead because
No,
you've been
no, but I'm
neglected?
just saying, I'm just speaking to the fact as to why many of us probably historically have not done those things because of the fear of retribution that we know doctors have taken against us when doing far less than that. I've had doctors shut down my medication simply because I told them their bedside manner was off. So,
And now that's
so
a
now,
conversation we're going to
now,
have next week
mm,
about what is a doctor's responsibility and what is a patient's responsibility in the same scenario. But just just for the sake of today, because we have to end this and wrap it up very shortly, as patients, what can we do and what commitment can we make on a personal scale and a larger scale to try and combat this? Because I'm tired of reading about people all over the world who are dying from neglect. The young man from England in the hospital dialed 999, which is their 911, because they wouldn't give him oxygen. He died because, oh, well, it wasn't time. No, this is a time sensitive illness. We go from here to here.
He said his oxygen saturation was already high. But how many times have our pulse oxes been at 98%, but we still feel, but because of the pain, we're still gasping for air? How many times has our blood
machines.
Exactly? How many times has our blood pressure? They associate a high blood pressure with pain, but our blood pressure is what they consider normal. So they may dismiss it, or they're looking at the hemoglobin or reticulate count.
Things that don't matter.
Yeah, things that don't necessarily always correlate to the immediate crises pain that you may be experiencing. Yet these are the weights and measures that they're using to gauge whether or not we're really in pain because of this overhanging thing about us being drug seekers, which is the dumbest thing in the world, considering that we are already prescribed massive amounts of opiates at home. So if we wanted to just abuse the medication, we very, very much so could just do that without having to worry about doctors and nurses and all of this overhanging, like, eyes watching us. Like, why would we do that?
But I think that goes back to one of the points of communication. And I'm not saying communication solves everything. But what I am saying is that when you communicate something and then you have a record of, I told you what to do and I told you what would happen if you didn't, you know what? Now you're building your case. Because let's be honest, nothing happens to these people. Nothing happens to these people. There is no place in this country where a sickle cell patient is safe. And I dare a doctor to come on and tell me that there is.
And it's because of
it
is because of the inconsistency of care. That is why no patient is truly safe in this country. Because you could go to the best hospital in the country, and normally you get the best doctors when you're there. But maybe you show up during this one shift, or maybe you show up during a cross shift or something like that, and you get that one doctor who's new on staff or who doesn't have the same level of experience, who doesn't know the culture of that hospital, whatever it may be. You get the one nurse who has a chip on her shoulder towards large, dark-skinned black men because she had a scary interaction with one at some point in time. Who knows? But I've seen and heard some of the craziest things from patients that nurses have said to them. Patients literally writhing in pain, rolling over and like grazing a nurse. That's sexual harassment. What? Yeah. Like craziness like that.
Well, there's no
I'm literally writhing in pain and because I accidentally touched you. Now that didn't happen to me, but I'm just saying. I've heard stories like that.
So I think it's the cultural stuff. I think it's a lack of education on the part of our doctors and our nurses. I think it's the way that our medical system is set up to sort of pit us against each other once we hit adult care, and we'll talk about that next week. But as patients, you know, a great deal of why nothing happens is because we don't follow through in writing and reporting to the proper people. And I think that is one thing that we can do that will have a positive outcome. And so we have created a 4-step reporting system, which will go into the comments. We have created a survey on sickle cell abuse, asking patients what do you think of it? Whose fault do you think it primarily lies with? What do you think your advocates and your national organizations can do to combat it? We really would like to know, because we are advocates and we are CBO, even though we come into your phone, once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever. But we would like to know, how can we serve you better? What are your thoughts on this? Because I'm not sitting here for an hour and a half talking, saying, is it our fault? Well, this could be our fault just for the sake of like inciting a riot or having you be mad at me, But I mean, this is to start a discussion. But really, what are your thoughts? What can you as parents do to start to prepare your children?
And we only do that not because recognize that, of course, we know that it's not our fault that this medical community and the culture around it is this jacked up. That's not the point of a question like this, but it is to at least get the gears turning and get us thinking about what more we can do to be more responsible and accountable to ourselves and to the sickle cell community to make the changes that need to happen so that they don't happen to us, so that they don't happen to another sickle cell patient, and so possibly future sickle cell patients don't even have to even think about this reality. It will just be some foregone thing that was the reality at some point in time.
Mm-hmm. Because it's the same way that we teach our children to say, Mommy, we have to go. We teach our children to say, Mom, I feel better now. Can we fill out that paperwork? Because that nurse, yeah, she was tripping. Mm-hmm. And do it. And it is all part of your crisis care from beginning to end. Ooh, crisis care. Oh, we're gonna think about that. But Kimberly, you were compared to an addict in the next room at the hospital. I have been compared to an addict at the next room at the hospital, and you know what the crazy part was?
That addict was getting better care.
The addict got all the damn care. The addict got housing. The addict was, we can sign you up for money and food stamps and Medicare and Medi-Cal and special insurance for addicts. We're going to send you out to Malibu.
Mm-hmm. What? And I'm sure they got all of the pain medication that they needed and were weaned off and got methadone and Suboxone and all the other things that you would use to treat an addict because you're actually following protocol. But because we're sickle cell patients, even if they quote unquote label us an addict, they don't follow addict protocols.
Ever.
Because they know the reality of the situation is that they're wrong. Amen. And that we're not addicts. And that not only are we not addicts, but we medically and legally speaking cannot be labeled as addicts because the medicine that we are being prescribed is a part of our treatment plan. So because they know that by even saying that or insinuating it, it is pure and simple bias.
But by us not telling them that. So 3 things, and then we're going to leave. Because Brown, like, we got to go. You getting me? 3 things that we going to leave. Number 1, fill out the paperwork that comes to the house. Fill out your surveys, good, bad, or otherwise. Send them back. They don't go to the hospital. They go to the accreditation.
When they call you,
but it's okay.
When they call you after a hospitalization, answer the phone. Go through the little thing. Talk to the lady. Give them, whether it's automated or real, do all of that stuff.
Number 3, fill out your complaints and send them in to the proper people, not just back to the hospital. Send them to Medi-Cal, Medicare, your insurance. Send them to the Joint Commission. Send them to the third-party offices that are set up to help you and who are actually going to investigate, the things that you're accusing people of, because at that point it is but an accusation. And finally,
but you may find that there are other accusations against this person that go just as deep and as far, and that no action was taken.
And if you can only deny so many before the floodgates open.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, at the end of every crisis, when you're home recovering, think about what you could have done personally to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be the easiest of things. It could be the simplest of things, what you could have done to make it better. So
having the bag ready, making sure your charger was already in there, all of that stuff,
we are beta testing our sickle cell patient tools 101 webinar tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific time. If you would like to be a beta tester, please write in the comments or DM me so I can add your name. We still have room for about 10 more people. And I will add you to the list. You will be sent a link at about 3 p.m. and then you will be able to look at the webinar and tell us what we need to change, fix, add on, usual stuff. And please take the survey that is pinned in the comments. The survey is on sickle cell abuse. We want to hear from you.
Yes.
And that's it for right now. Shay Brown, you ready? Is she doing the falling asleep thing on us because she mad that we went like an extra 10 minutes?
Well, she's gonna hear it. It's like 5 minutes later. So.
Oh, okay. So maybe if we just stay here, we can do a countdown. We'll see.
Here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there it is.
Bam! Right there.
Oh.
Okay.
We're gonna do our sign offs now. Thank you everybody for tuning in.
I see that, you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, you just down Not bad.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
The delay. We knew the delay was gonna catch up.
We appreciate you this time.
Gonna work out the technical difficulties. She's here.
Next year. Next week we got you.
Yeah, not next year. Oh, no, not next year.
So, anyways, let me just close this out so that we can just be done, please. All right. I know this is kind of funny. This is our first time using this, so bear with us. Next time we'll be ready and prepared. Thank you all for joining. Until next time, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can.
Treat people and places